Hey, everybody. My name's Alexander.
And I'm Dr. Shasta.
We're back with Your Healthy Living. Another week's gone by. They just fly by.
Yes.
I know. I'm almost
it's summertime,
24 now.
So
we just figured that out, right?
And I'm only 23.
You're 23, but you've been in business for 24 years. How does that happen?
Because, I
Because
was
you
just
started
born
in the
into this.
womb.
Yes.
She started learning in a very big womb. A womb of very intelligent people.
Yes, I did. I started my acupuncture training when I was 18. So
you did?
It's actually been 31 years.
Oh, that's right, because
31 years.
Was it your father that was an acupuncturist?
Yep.
And he was one for like
forever.
40 years.
And so were Ephraim and Harriet Korngold, who have written the #1 layperson's guide in America, called Between Heaven and Earth. And
how come I've never heard of that?
This is how I've grown up around this stuff.
We've done like 3 shows. I've never heard you say anything like that.
Yeah,
I feel like I don't even know
I've grown up around the
yet.
natural medicine leaders of the country.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, that's why you're so smart. And
I was born into that age,
Yeah, that's
But we
awesome.
have a wonderful lady named Dr. Janetti Marrota. Welcome, Janetti. Nice to see you. I haven't seen you in probably 5 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's great to be here.
Wow, it's a reunion.
She has written a book called A Fertile Path.
Which is right up your alley.
Which it is. That is my specialty. Guiding the journey with mindfulness and compassion. And everybody needs this who is trying to get pregnant. In Chinese medicine, as I was telling Janetti, the master doctors said that unexplained infertility is 70% caused by emotional stress, internal stress issues. And mindfulness and learning how to unravel our stress, tension, and anxiety is very key for being fertile friendly. So, Janetti, we are very excited to have you here. I know you're a clinical psychologist, speaker, workshop facilitator, and author of 2 books. We know that you work in helping people with infertility in your clinic, private practice, and you have taught for years mindfulness in fertility programs for hospitals. So tell us a little bit about where you're located, just so people know how they could get a hold of you in the beginning. We'll also get that at the end.
Okay. I have a private practice in Palo Alto, California, and so I work with individuals and couples. I also see people on a just sort of like life happening, kind of issues basis. But primarily I have a lot of people who are really struggling with the whole fertility challenge.
And you really are the pioneer in this area of mindfulness for fertility. I did not know of anybody else creating an 8-week program done in a hospital setting as you. And this book has been a culmination of all those years of those programs, correct?
I started putting together a program using mindfulness about 10 years ago, and it's just evolved over the last 10 years. I also use it in my private practice, working with individuals and couples. And so many people have gone through really applying the gifts of mindfulness to work with the challenges.
And didn't you yourself have some fertility challenges that had brought you to this naturally?
That's what got me into this.
Yeah, I remember that.
Wow.
Yeah, I was actually in the psychiatry department at Stanford. My specialty was drug and alcohol. And so my husband and I tried to have a child, and within a 6-year period, it was repeated miscarriage, IVF, donor IVF with family member, and then a matched donor. I was in like the original pool. Adoption, and then surrogacy. So my daughter is 23.
Yeah.
So it
you
worked.
are
Whatever
a
it is,
success story.
it worked. And we're going to talk about how that worked after this commercial break, because this is mindfulness.
At Way of Wellness, we help to rebalance the hormones of your body so that it can heal itself. Way of Wellness offers acupuncture, Chinese medicine, functional nutrition, Qi yoga, and wellness coaching. Call 408-615-1995 and start living the life that keeps us well.
Hey there, everybody. My name's Alexander.
And I'm Dr. Shasta.
And we're back with another episode of Your Healthy Living, and we're talking about, and I had this question as you two were talking, being that you're the fertility experts, and I don't know anything about that, but you were talking about mindfulness, which I relate to a lot, being a kind of a more spiritual-esque type of a person, and believe that our mind is so connected to our body and our health, and it makes sense. Can you explain a little bit of what mindfulness means? I mean, what are we actually targeting when we're going into this whole process of understanding what mindfulness is?
Sure. So, what I like to start with is what mindfulness isn't.
Okay, that works.
So we tend to have a way of kind of looking through a lens of judgment, and that inclines us to say we like this, we don't like this is good, this is bad, success, failure, and so it's this filter between us and experience that decides whether we're okay with what's happening. And so mindfulness is basically being in the present moment without this lens of judgment. Mm-hmm. So it's moment-to-moment, non-judgmental awareness. Right. And it gets us out of that habitual way of categorization, evaluation, that tends to get in the way of being able to process what's happening.
Mm-hmm. And I got to guess it's part of the issue with anxiety too, because people are thinking about what could happen or what has happened. They're not in that now moment. Is that right?
Exactly. I mean, if you look at like what anxiety is, a lot of it is like anticipatory anxiety. So it's what happens before the actual event. And so mindfulness is a way of looking at how we're adding optional suffering to the unavoidable suffering that life presents.
Wow, I like that. Optional suffering is that's
Did
awesome.
it come from like a Buddhist philosophy? That sounds very Buddhist.
Yeah, absolutely. And those were words, I think, from the Buddha. That what happens is that life has suffering,
right?
And it's unavoidable.
Mm-hmm. It's like what we resist persists.
Right.
Exactly.
And if we can just actually be with it, then there's a possibility for a transformation.
That's totally right.
Yeah.
So mindfulness is it's at the heart of Buddhist psychology, which is all about how we get stuck and how we open up. And in mindfulness is oftentimes equated with like insight meditation or vipassana. And the reason why it is under this insight meditation is that it leads to insight, and that it shows us how we trip up on what's happening. And so life is unavoidably difficult, but we resist. And so this is what you're saying, Shasta.
Right.
So if we can accept what's happening, meaning be with it.
Right. Be with it, absorb it, and try and understand it as opposed to resist it.
Feeling guilty or like, I wish this wasn't happening to me. And,
right.
And then mindfulness also looks at how we resist the fact that everything changes, and we want things to be kind of like lined up. And so it's noticing that it's being able to ride on the waves of change, and that we also tend to personalize life. But really, life is pretty impersonal. Mm-hmm. So it's an ever-fluctuating kind of flow of experiences. But we say, this is happening to me. And this is particularly with fertility challenges, taking it very personally. And so mindfulness puts on this neutral lens so that we can step back and not identify with what's happening.
And it makes sense if you think about it. The body has this mechanism that when you think about certain things, you have, this fight or flight mode that comes in, and what your thoughts are creates how your body reacts.
Yeah.
I got to guess.
Yeah.
And that has a lot to do with it, right?
And it puts us on defensive.
Right. So we, instead of worrying about this side or this side, worry about the moment, understand it, and just get with it. And that's what you were saying. It allows you to see that enlightenment of the moment, and to allow your body to just, I can just totally see that.
And what do we know about the stress of infertility and its treatment?
Well, we know that there's been 3 or 4 studies that have looked at the degrees of symptoms of depression and anxiety for women with a diagnosis of infertility is equal to women with a diagnosis of cancer, HIV positive, and heart disease. That it's seen as a major life stressor because it impacts every area of life. And so it's really identified as a crisis. Also because how people cope doesn't work. We tend to have this cause and effect, like if we put out effort, we'll succeed. But with infertility, which is all about loss of control, you can't control the outcome.
Right.
I always encourage my patients. I always let them know, listen, I get that what you're committed to is expanding your loving family. I actually have that talk with them first so that then we can create the possibility of different ways that could show up, which is very much what your story is. So I say, listen, I get that what you're up to is expanding your loving family no matter what. And if you can create a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, a plan D, and you know how much money, how much time, and who's going to be on your team to do that, you can then get a lot of the stressfulness out, because you can't control what happens. You just can control your actions in line with that plan.
And, that makes sense in all of life if you think about it. I mean, in essence, for me, being a financial advisor, business guy, I go, you got to have a plan.
Right.
You want to create something. In this case, a baby, you want to create something or a business, you've got to have those stages that you're talking about.
How much money, how much
time,
you
know what it's going to cost.
What are the side effects of these things?
It goes through so many veins of life.
You and your partner, being in alignment and getting your team for that. And this, you would be one of those people. Acupuncturists like me would be one of those people, making sure they have enough money. Like me. Could be enough,
You got to pay for private education.
Along with this assisted reproductive therapies, possibly a surrogate, possibly you know what I mean, adoption. I've even had people do foster and be just they tried for so many years and just said, I'm so sick of not having a baby. I'm so sick of being sad about this. And they just became a foster parent.
I could see how
and
that
then
would
they
be
adopted
depressing.
a 2-year-old right out of that because they let themselves expand their thoughts of how to expand their loving family. And that lets go of that control of how it has to be.
I wish more people could get that, because I think what you guys are talking about here is kind of the planning for the aspect of having a child. And I think there's too many people out there that just willy-nilly go and have a kid. No, they don't have any problems. They have kids. And then
There's
the next
lots
thing you
of
know,
people like that,
we got
but there are a lot of
problems
people
with our
who can't.
youth. Right.
Yeah, there are a lot of people who can't.
And those would probably, would probably be the best parents. Is what I'm thinking.
A lot of times those united families like that already have a loving family will be wonderful
parents.
That's
what I'm thinking.
So,
anyway, sorry, I'll get off my high horse now.
What role does mind and emotions play in the fertility process? What do these studies show? What else did you notice? And you told me about a study from 2015.
Another study I just want to talk about right before that is that there has also been a number of studies that have looked at the fact that the number one reason why people drop out of treatment, fertility treatment, is not prognosis, diagnosis, or finances. It's stress.
No kidding.
And so,
they just
and
can't
that's
handle
been validated, I think, in 3 or 4 projects. So we know that stress gets in the way of being able to kind of stay the course,
right,
and open to possibilities of other potential ways of having children. There was also a study in 2015. It was a meta-analysis, so it looked at the highest quality studies that were robust to look at the stress-fertility relationship. And so they focused on treatment programs like Mind Body, group programs, or various psychological interventions, and to see if there was a higher pregnancy rate and also if symptoms of depression and anxiety reduced. And they were all very effective, and there was a 40% pregnancy rate as opposed to a 20%
I
rate
believe
on
that.
the control group.
Well, I mean, it's getting people back into the parasympathetic, the feed and breed nervous system state, where the blood is more in the internal organs and not on the extremities, and the stress hormones are lower, and the symphony of the endocrine hormones works. I always tell my patients, trust nature, and part of that is taking time to rest, taking time to be in nature, comforting themselves with meditation, counselors, yoga, acupuncture, massage, all those yin qualities that our society isn't really highlighting.
See, to me, that's sanity, though.
Right.
I mean, we have such an insane world. We have to figure out how to bring back our sanity. And that's the beautiful thing about you two. That's what you guys do, and help people have kids. We're going to be right back after this commercial break talking a little bit more about fertility.
I do traditional Chinese medicine, and that includes 5 different branches: acupuncture, massage, yoga, tai chi, qigong, herbal medicine, and nutrition. It is amazing in helping the body heal itself that it releases the body's natural endorphins, serotonin, and seems to rebalance the hormones of the body.
Lower back pain was taken care of very quickly, 6 treatments, and I was pain-free. And this was like 3 years ago, and I've remained pain-free.
I've grown up in the Bay Area, and I have had my own practice for over 15 years. When I was 12, I decided I want to be an acupuncturist, and by the time I was 25, I was licensed.
I have thyroid condition and stress, big time. When I walk out, I'm feeling like a whole different person. It's definitely a blessing to be able to come here.
I love helping women have babies, and the day that they actually get pregnant, the look in their eye is like, it's the best thing ever.
I've been struggling trying to get pregnant for the past 3 or 4 years. I came to Shasta. I would totally recommend her to anyone out there that is trying to get pregnant. She will do great for you.
Way of Wellness has to do with living a life that keeps us well.
Hi there, this is Alexander with It's All About the Show. You know, I've been with Money Concepts since 1994, and they have been the primary catalyst for my success as a financial advisor. If you're looking for a career change and you want to help people for a living, check out moneyconcepts.com/ALEE or call 946-8378 today. Hey everybody, we're back with Your Healthy Living. My name's Alexander.
And I'm Dr. Shasta.
And we're chatting about some interesting stuff and how basically stress is affecting the body, and primarily for the specialty both you guys have is the fertility aspect of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 1 in 5 couples are suffering from infertility.
Really? Is it that high?
It's very,
it's like
very
20%.
high. We've actually gone down in birth rate in America, in the U.S. We're actually down under 2.
Yeah, it's like 1.8 or something, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's actually at a crisis level, and that we may not be
right. How are we going to
continue?
Yeah, how we keep people alive.
So I met Janetti in one of her programs, 8-week seminars, and she has written a book now and does personal one-on-one counseling. And we'd love to know. She actually is the pioneer and foremost psychologist on this that I know of in the area, and this is really, really important. It is that emotional, spiritual, mindfulness meditation factor that everybody needs, and nobody is really being taught.
Right.
So what is meant by a holistic approach to fertility treatment, Janetti?
Well, a holistic approach is looking at how you can also care for yourself. Being a patient that is not just involved in following the prescriptions and the surgeries and the procedures, but taking care of your whole self. So that's your emotional and mental and physical well-being. So it's, I've heard it quoted as a 3-legged stool. So the self-care is one leg, and the pharmaceuticals is another leg, and the surgeries and procedures is the other leg. So it's that balanced kind of approach.
Yeah, where they have enough reserves, emotional and physical reserves, to handle the emotional ups and downs of what may or may not happen.
Yeah, it's really being a participatory patient.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you talk about infertility as presenting a kind of existential paradox. What do you mean by that?
So, something that I notice is all of these forces that are sort of like go against you. Like one of them is the harder you try, the more stuck you get, because of this relationship that there is no effort equating with success. And then there's also the factor of time, that you're expected to slow down when there's this race against the biological clock.
Right.
Couples really need to be on the same team, but there's very different coping responses that couples typically have. And so you can feel a lot of more tension in the couple's relationship.
Yeah.
And then going out for support. I mean, you really need to get support, but it's hard to find it because people will say things that can really be hurtful, like why don't you just relax or go on vacation or just adopt. And And
See, from a guy's standpoint, though, is that hurtful? Is that?
It feels hurtful.
See,
I mean,
and I think that you're talking about that kind of that male-female communication in essence. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. It just made a point to me in that.
Yeah, it's oftentimes seen as the insensitive comments, but people
Really?
are trying to be helpful. I mean, they're not trying to,
Think of that, guys. Remember that when you're talking to your wife. Just kind of zip it a little bit. That's what I think. Communicate.
It's just that this is out of a woman and a man's control. It's literally a miracle to conceive. It's a beautiful miracle of nature. And we have a lot of external factors going on. We have stressful jobs, being in front of computers, not getting out in the sun enough, not getting enough sleep, being in front of TVs all night, being on our phones all day, food that has a lot of different genetic modifications, all of the products women put on themselves and men that alter hormones. There's so much going on that has nothing to do. It is not their fault. It is not a natural form of expression of biology. Those things are disrupting our biology, and if all of that can cause internal anxiety, stress, also because it can affect the liver and the kidneys. But what your program does can help them for a moment feel that inner intuition, that inner peace, where they have enough reserves to make some of these other changes in a society that is calling them out.
It's right.
And that is we were talking about the yin. We
Yeah.
were talking about nourishing the yin. In Chinese medicine, the yin and the yang. The yin is the feminine. It's the blood. It's the strong eggs. It's everything. The yang is the outward going motion, fire, heat, etc. And for a woman, the yin is very important. Same for a man.
Right.
So
we need that to complete us.
But if we are in this society that's going like this, and we need to remember that as a woman and a man, we need more of this. We need mindfulness to remind us what we already know.
It's a beautiful thing what you're doing.
It's to help us remind us of what we already know.
John Kabat-Zinn, who started mindfulness-based stress reduction, or MBSR, talks about mindfulness it's an inside-out job.
Yes. And you wrote here in your chapter 10, Giving Birth to Yourself, nothing is everything. Would you like to share a little bit more about what you mean by that?
Sure. So it is this trying to be okay by changing the situation. And mindfulness is about not trying to change the situation. It's being in harmony with the situation, but it looks at changing how you're relating to it. So it's all about the relationship with what's happening. And that's where then you are able to cultivate qualities of like trust and patience and all of those qualities that can sustain you for the long haul. And so everything that's paradoxical about infertility, I mean, another one is career. Like you need your career for a source of like income because fertility treatment is expensive and self-esteem, and yet it gets compromised. Like one of the things that happened for me was I could no longer really stay at Stanford with all of the responsibilities that I had while I was doing treatment and losing pregnancies and all that.
Right.
So, mindfulness is it more than anything. It's really it especially in the fertility world. It's about giving birth to yourself.
I like that.
That's beautiful.
And
that really is beautiful.
And like this is something that you were talking about, Shasta. It's recognizing that in many ways, motherhood is not specific with like having that child that you're genetically related to, and that comes in the world in this way that it does, happen for most people, but not always. And it's 20% of all couples within childbearing years. And so mindfulness is opening up to the possibility. And this is something that I've seen happen for so many people that I work with in my groups and in my private practice. It's letting go of the expectations and the assumptions of how things should be.
I like that analogy because
really
if you think
great.
about giving birth to yourself, you think about when you birth a child, and if you never had a child, you don't know what the experience is. You love this thing wholeheartedly. It's even though it's screaming and it may be driving somebody nuts, it's being in love with something that's part of you. And you're talking about, this whole rebirth of who you are and finding that love inside yourself to allow yourself to. And I love what you said when you were talking about the relationship with a situation and being able to be okay with it and to understand it and relate to it as it is. That's just amazing.
Yeah, it's an opportunity of actual self-growth, like you said.
Absolutely.
And growth, giving birth to yourself, a self that you never knew.
I like that. I want to use that.
That's beautiful.
I'll quote you if I write a book about it, but I want to use that. You got to give birth to yourself.
And you mentioned returning to your deep intention. Would you like to say a little bit more about that?
I start every group with what brings you here. What is your what really is your heart's desire? What are you looking for? And while it might be I want to get pregnant, it's really that I want to feel loved.
Right.
I want the expression of love, and so it's just understanding what's really important, and that it can come in a lot of different shapes, sizes, and colors.
Right.
Yeah, so it's hard to recognize. In essence, you just got to allow it to be what it is, right? In essence?
Yeah. And I would say
it may not look how you originally thought it would
right.
look.
So be prepared.
Given the societal situations that are going on with the chemicals and EMFs, etc., people need to be more open-minded, especially people who are starting later in life. But just in general, if there's always a way to expand your loving family, and it's allowing yourself the ability to imagine and dream it. How can people get a hold of you, Janetti?
So my website is janettimarrota.com. It's kind of a lot of vowels.
Do you have
there.
a phone number that people could call you?
650-494-2347.
And people can buy your book where?
It's on Amazon.
Wonderful. So, A Fertile Path, Guiding the Journey with Mindfulness and Compassion by Janetti Marrota, PhD.
Thank
Everybody
you so
should get
much,
this.
Janetti, for being
Thank you,
here.
Janetti.
We got to run. Everybody have a great day. KIYS,
everyone.
Your Healthy Living.